e futuramente Valter Duarte, Catinho Ribeiro. Ok, gente? Eu agradeço a paciência de vocês, agradeço a atenção de vocês. Roberto. Direto nessa
So a lot of Black Americans, they don't realize that there were far more Africans brought to Brazil than the United States. There are more Black people living in Brazil than the United States. Brazil is probably 2 times closer to Africa in terms of distance. You know, it's a shorter distance to get from West Africa to Brazil than it is to get from Africa to the United States. You know,
Yeah.
so as a result, I believe that Brazilians, they were a lot more rebellious during the slave trade. You know, they had a lot more successful uprisings. They had quilombos, which
Yeah.
were community. So in comparison, I could say in America, the slaves, for the most part, if they wanted to rebel, they would run away, they would leave, and they would integrate into another country or another community. But to my understanding, sometimes in Brazil, the runaway slaves would build their own kingdoms, they would build their own villages, and they would fight the European powers. They would have wars and battles, and they would win sometimes, and they would fight them off. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's quite correct. Right here, because of the extension of the country, is a, as I said, is a continental country. Is very vast. So that vastness allowed our ancestors to moving forward in the country while they were running away, and found the natives from here, the Brazil, the indigenous people from Brazil, the Guarani, and other peoples from here, we call Indios at the same time, but it had a lot of people around here, Yanomami and things like that. So our ancestors joined the groups and formed what we call today Quilombo. We have one of the first Republican around here in Brazil after the slave trade. That was the Quilombo dos Palmares, which lasted 100 years. So we had a lot of people rebellious around here, and their spirit remains in those people too. That was one of the reasons why the Portuguese moved the capital to another place. The first capital was in Bahia, at the northeast. It's the most, if you can see the map, is closer, is most closer to the coast, but the people brought to there was far violent, was far rebellious. So they was obliged to move to another place and move the capital from Brazil, from Bahia to Rio de Janeiro. And there they brought the army, they found the army because of that, and structured the city to protect themselves from the Africans who are brought here. So you are correct what you say.
That's amazing. Okay. I, I, I read that the oldest skeleton that was found in South America was found in Brazil. And when they did the DNA and they did the analysis, they determined that the oldest bones in South America are actually from a black person, and it's a museum in Belo Horizonte. Is that how you say it?
I don't know. It's I don't. I'm not familiar with the museum, but that thing, that fact, is far known by the scientific community. The human being is African. We can say that human being is equal being African. So we have to remember that the human beings have at least 200,000 years in the planet Earth. So by the time they were moving through the planet and occupying those different places, and time passing, they were creating different cultures. The Europeans, for example, what we call Europeans today, were are this not descended but was fruit of the migration of the people. Around here in Brazil is not different. As in that's one thing we had to deal with, because around here in Brazil we had some difficulties because we had some affirmative policies to deal with the disadvantage, cultural, social disadvantage, economical disadvantage to the black people and another communities, and some non-black people are using the genetic heritage to find themselves to take advantage of the policy. But we need to deal with that not in the genetic way, because genetically every human being can trace back to Africa, because being human is being African. So we need to narrow down the concept of being African in the way that we can differentiate the people who passed through the Holocaust, the African Holocaust and the Holocaust of slave trade. So it is important to us to deal with it. First, understand that being African is being human. So in one side, it's good to us because for a long time it was by culture, by education, by media, and things like that. We were taught that we were not human. So that's an important fact. Being human is being African. Second, we need to deal with the trap that other peoples are using to move us away from our rights, which is not so deep in the genetical aspect of being African or being black, but the social construction made by the Europeans from the 15th century to them, to differentiate those people who suffered, like descendants of the people who passed through the slave trade.
Okay, wow.